You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It's Monday. It is 2 p.m. Central. It is 3 p.m. Eastern. It is time once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program here on the old Options Insider Radio Network, where we go a little bit further afield, explore what's going on in the world of crypto derivatives, the volume, the volatility, the skew, all that fun, and a whole bunch more. We're going to talk a lot of spot out there as well across a broad spectrum. The big dogs, Bitcoin and ETH, also get some smattering of altcoin in there as well in the altcoin universe. A whole bunch of fun. Your questions, wrap it together with a bow. And that is, of course, the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the ever-exciting network upon which so many of you are binging. Remember, if you want to join us live right here, 2 p.m. Central, as well as all the other shows we do throughout the week, as well as get exclusive access to our pro podcast feed that has 200 hours worth of content on it already and more coming all the time, as well as great giveaways and a whole bunch more. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro, the place to go to join that partay. And of course, however you're listening, you're pro, you're on demand, you're getting it via our app, you're getting it on YouTube or on iTunes, wherever you're getting it. Make sure, if your platform allows it, throw some stars, a nice review, maybe YouTube, a nice comment. Who knows? Whatever you feel like, a like. All that stuff helps the algorithm continue to love the show out there, which clearly it's doing because you folks are loving it. We thank you all for taking the time to do just that as we take our time to go into a little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. We're talking about the big dog, which is Bitcoin. Going to be a Just the Facts edition of the show this week, not rolling out the crypto hot seat this week. We'll save that for future episodes, but a lot of Bitcoin and indeed altcoin action to get to on the week this week. Of course, a wee bit of red on the screen out there for you crypto bulls, so maybe not your favorite week out there. Coming in to start the show, Bitcoin threatening to break through 27,500, 27,510 when we kicked off the show. That's a wee bit below where we were this time last week, 28,133. That's down about 622 handles on the week. So a little bit of red on the screen this week. Of course, we did get higher in between that time. On Friday, we got to almost 30,000, got to kissing 30K within spitting distance of 30K, 29,706 to be precise. The low came actually today. So I misspoke when I said we were working on break. We had actually broken 27,500. That was earlier this morning. We got down to 27,361, have since rebounded a little bit there. So interesting week out there. A little bit of upside, a little bit of downside, hanging out a little bit below where we were this time last week. All that a long way around to saying the vol isn't terribly changed from this time last week. A little bit lower, but not a ton. We were a little bit shy of 51 on the 30-day vol, 50 3/4 last week. That's a 48 this week. Of course, that vol, all the analytics we're going to talk about on the show this week, coming at you courtesy of our friends over there at Amber Data, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. That's AMBERDATA.io. If you like all this analytics, and why wouldn't you? You're listening to a show like this, then by all means, check them out. You're going to like what you find over there as we keep on rolling. Let's go a little bit farther out. We've looked at the 30-day vol. Let's go out, let's say half a year and see what the volatility is out there. See if it's holding any surprises. And the answer is pretty much no right now. It was about 52 3/4 this time last week, 50 1/4 this week. So off about 2.5 points. Still hanging out slightly north of that 50 handle. Of course, if you listen to our This Week in Futures options program, you'll know that any vol even close to 50 is still pretty elevated. Most of the commodities and assets we talk about on that program, which is just about everything that trades over there at CME these days. So you're talking your metals, your ags, your energy, your equities, all of the above. Most of them are in the mid-20s to low 30s from a vol range. A few are outside of that to the downside in the rates and to the upside in, let's say, nat gas and, of course, crypto. Some of the few asset classes that are really above that. So if you're saying 50, that's pretty low for Bitcoin. And you're right, it is. But also when you compare it to other asset classes, it still is fairly volatile. Let's go out to the Skew. Remember, this is the 25 delta put versus the 25 delta skew. If all that stuff I'm talking about, that scares you, that throws you into some convulsion, you say, I just don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's what we have great educational programming here on the network for you. Options Bootcamp, Options Playbook Radio. 2 must listens for you if you want to get up to speed on all of this fun stuff. Last show, we had about a positive 0.5, which is not much. It's pretty much flat. And this week, we're seeing pretty much the same thing, about a negative 3/4. So it has swung more than a point in the other direction. But outside of that, we're not seeing a pronounced bid to the downside. If we go a little bit farther out, half a year again on the Skew, last week we were about 3.5 points to the positive. So decidedly more positive longer term last week. That's still the case this week. It's about a positive 1 3/4 though. So it's got cut pretty much in half. So Skew, not a heck of a lot in the near term, and going out longer term, a little bit more positive, but still not a ton to be read out there. Of course, last week we saw April roll off the board, take a lot of OI with it. We're seeing the OI starting to rebuild over there on Deribit now. Coming on to the call front, 198,000 calls open on Deribit this week. It's up about 9,000 on the week. The put's 91,000. It's up about 3,000. So we're still hanging out pretty close to that 2-to-1 level that Deribit seems to like to hang out at. Let's go see what the size positions are out there in Bitcoin options on Deribit right now. Let's start number 5. It is the 35,000 strike once again. So that's still making it in our top 5. And again, after the big OI shakeup we saw in the last couple of weeks, not a huge evolution this week. Number 5, 35,000 strike with 13,500 contracts open. That's up about 200. So again, pretty much hanging out, treading water on the week. Number 4, we have the 25,000 strike. It's got 14,000 contracts open. That's literally unchanged on the week. So a lot of treading water going on there as well. Number 3, 32,000 strike. We got 15,000 contracts open there. That's down about 100. So again, pretty much treading water. Number 2, the 40,000 strike. That's our biggest mover on the week. That's got 16,000 contracts open. That's up about 2,000 on the week. So more OI piling into the 40K strike, which is kind of interesting given a week where we threatened 30K, didn't quite break it, and then have retreated away from it. And the number 1 size position in Bitcoin options on Deribit, I think you can probably guess by now, it's the 30,000 strike. It's got 17,800 contracts open. That's down about 200. We had exactly 18,000 last week. So again, mostly treading water out here in the big Bitcoin options this week. Let's see if that's still the case out there in many of your preferred vehicles to trade Bitcoin these days. It is, of course, a BITO. Coming into the start of this segment is at about a 1580 out there. So that's about a little more than a half a point below where it was this time last week, about a 0.55 to be precise. In terms of paper, we are starting to see a little more paper on the tape today, which is good. Got 52,000 contracts on the tape this week, which is nice to see because the ADV tends to go, and it has been going for a while now, in the other direction. It's down to 42,000. It's down another 2,000 contracts this week. Again, that's been a bit of a mystery. We are seeing a lot of price action in Bitcoin lately, so that usually translates to some paper in BITO. For whatever reason, folks are not slinging it right now. I don't know. But maybe today will be the catalyst that changes it. 52,000 contracts on the tape already. That's already 10,000 above the ADV. Vol-wise, we're looking at about a 47, so very much in line to what we're seeing out there on Deribit as well. That's down about 8 points on the week. So Vol coming in pretty aggressively here on BITO. Let's go out to the top positions in BITO, see what's open out there. Number 10, we have 13,000 of the June 10 puts. By the way, overall top 10 last week, we were 7-3 calls over puts. This week, still 7-3 calls over puts. No change there. At the number 10 spot, we have our first of 3 puts, the June 10 puts, 13,000 of those bad boys. Number 9, we've got 13,000 as well of the June 20 calls. Number 8, 17, almost 18,000 of the June 5 puts. Man, we're talking about some serious out-of-the-money paper here. Number 7, almost 20,000 of the Jan 18 calls. Number 6, 23,000 of the Jan 35s. Number 5, 25,000 of the June 8 puts. Talked about those a few times here on the show. Number 4, 27,000 of the Jan 65s. Perhaps my favorite position. Just in terms of sheer silliness out there in the BITO options. Number 3, 27,000 of the Jan 15s. Number 2, 32,000 of the Jan 25s. And the number 1 size position out here in BITO options right now, just a tick under 41,000 of the Jan 30 calls. That's an interesting position. Again, 30 in BITO, listeners. What would it take for us to get out there these days, get to a 30 level? Intriguing. Let's look really quickly to see if we can find when those were open. They've been open sporadically for, again, it is a Jan positions. Those tend to be longer term established positions. So looks like they've been slowly building that one over time. They've 3,000 to 4,000, sometimes 6,000 or 7,000 contracts a day going up. The biggest day most recently was on April 28th. They put up about 8,000 of them, 7,000 of them on March 31st, 4,000 on March 29th. So they've been slowly and incrementally growing this OI over time out here. So interesting. Intriguing strikes. Nonetheless, as we keep on rolling to explore what else is trading out there in the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the altcoin universe, a portion of the show where we explore everything beyond the big dog, which is Bitcoin. Except for right now, we talk about the top 10 from a market cap perspective. Cost you about $8 billion to break into the top 10 this week. That gets you to Solana, our old friend Solana. Number 9, Polygon, $8.25 billion. Number 8, it's Doge, just a tick under $10 billion worth of market cap. Number 7, Cardano, $12.5 billion. Number 6, XRP, 21, almost $22 billion. Number 5, it's USD Coin, $30 billion. Number 4, BNB, 48, almost $49 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, $82 billion. Numero Due, it's ETH, $220 billion. And the number 1 big dog out there, Bitcoin, $532 billion worth of market cap. So pretty much closing in on halfway to $1 trillion. Doesn't seem like that long ago we were hanging out north of $1 trillion. But these days, right about half of that out there. ETH, when we kicked off the show, 1832. Almost unched from where it was this time last week. We closed the show last week at 1835. So net, not a heck of a lot going on, even though we did do some living in between. We got up to just a bit north of 2005 pretty much, to be precise on there. That was on Friday. The low came last Monday, right after our show, pretty much 1809 out there. So about a almost 200-point range on the week. But again, settling out to pretty much a net nothing, which is why our vol is pretty much treading water out. That's pretty much our theme this week for all the crypto assets this week, listeners. We're treading water out here across the board. 5160 was the ETH vol last week. 50 and a quarter this week. So coming in slightly on the 30-day vol. We go a little bit farther out. We're seeing that 180-day vol on the term structure is about a 52. So a little bit frothier, a little bit juicier, but not a ton. Not a heck of a lot of difference between the front month and 6 months out. Let's go out to the Skew, see if we can find some evolution there. Last week, we were pretty much flat on the 30-day Skew. This week, a little bit more negative, about 1.5 point premium to the puts out there. So not a ton, but it's something. It's something out there. If you go out farther, if you go out 180 days, flat. There's nothing really. It was about negative 0.1 this time last week, which is pretty much flat. And this week, it is literally flat. So there is no bias in one direction or the other, which is kind of interesting. Usually you might see a little bit of a bias in one direction or the other if you go out a little bit longer term. These days, nothing. So maybe showing you that the options folks out there kind of flipping a coin as to where ETH is heading next right now. In terms of OI, again, seeing ETH continuing to rebuild the OI that it lost with April expiration. Right now, there's about 1.85 million calls open on Derib. That's up about 100,000 from this time last week. Puts, 717,000. That's up about 59, almost 60,000 on the week. Still hanging out at that ratio. The ETH OI usually likes to hang out at a little bit below that these days. Let's go out to this top 5 position, see what's open for size out there on Derib. At number 5, we have the 2400 strike, 126,000 contracts open. It's up about 4,000 on the week. Number 4, we have the 2000 strike. It's got 173,000 contracts open. It's up about 9,000 on the week. Number 3, the 2200 strike, 183,000 contracts open. It's up about 21,000. That's our biggest mover and shaker on the week. Also interesting to see all those north of 2,000, a level we haven't really been able to sustain in ETH for any significant period of time, including this past week. Number 2, the 1900 strike, 240,000 contracts open. It's up about 5,000 on the week. And the big dog in ETH options right now, the 1800 strike, 244,000 contracts, up about 13,000 on the week. Let's keep on rolling with this Just the Facts edition. Let's get on out to some of the altcoin universe, see what's lighting it up out there. A lot of these underlyings don't really have a ton of options on them, so we can't really sink our teeth into those, with the exception of our first one here, Solana. This was a more heavily represented name on the show prior to last November. We all know what happened then. Not a lot of options paper to speak of, but intriguing one to watch. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, a lot of you have been trading it still, drove it back up into the mid-20s not too long ago. Taking a bit of a break from that this week. We got about 20 and a quarter when we kicked off the show last week, hanging out almost 22, 21.89. So down a little over a point, about $1.65 on the week. So again, a lot more options impetus for an asset that's $20 versus below $10, which is where Solana bottomed out in its nadir back in January. So we'll keep an eye on it still. If you folks are trading, if more volume continues to accrete out there in Solana options, maybe we'll add them back into the mix. XRP, our old friend Ripple, also taking a break this week. It was about a 46 last week, 42 this week, off about 4 cents. Of course, we saw some interesting news come out over the course of the week saying people already knew this, people already assumed this, but to see it spelled out was kind of interesting. The Ripple folks saying they've spent $200 million now to defend themselves against the SEC. I mean, I get it. It's necessary, but also you have to kind of just wonder at this point what the value of an enforcement like that taking so long. If you're going to do this, maybe just for the sake of company, for the people who want to trade it. I mean, XRP has been locked in limbo for years now as a result, on top of the folks here having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to defend themselves. Maybe we owe it to them to at least have some sort of timely resolution to the matter, not dragging it out for years. But that's the case here. Whichever way you feel on Ripple, I don't think anyone wanted it to drag out this long. So, yeah, terrible stuff there. And Ripple feeling the weight of it again this week. Doge taking a bit of a break, 7.8 cents last week, 7.1 cents this week. Litecoin taking a big break this week, 86 3/4 last week, 76.61 this week, down a little over 10 handles on the week. Let's get out to a few others here. Then we'll get to some of your comments and questions and get out of here for this Just the Facts, ma'am, edition this week. Cardano, 38.5 cents last week, 35.8 cents this week, down a little over about 2.5 cents on the week. Polkadot, 5.70 last week, about 5.25 this week, so down about 45 cents on the week. Shiba also taking a break, 0.00009 last week, down to a 0.85 this week. And since we talked about them last week, a lot of you had fun with it. Let's welcome on a little bit of a Syscoin action as well, even though maybe Some of you Syscoin bulls maybe not loving it. It was 14.3 cents when we were chatting with those folks about Syscoin last week in the crypto hot seat. This week, 11.5 cents. So taking a bit of a hiatus out there as well. But you folks never take a hiatus with your questions. Let's get to some of those now. A little bit of your crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, everybody, welcome to the crypto question. This week's question looks like it's more of a comment, really. It comes in from Ray. Ray L says, I just wanted to say I'm enjoying the show, and I love the variety of guests covering a wide aspect of the crypto market, from derivatives to altcoin like Syscoin. Thanks so much. Well, you're welcome here, Ray L. You know, the show is primarily focused around crypto derivatives. That's always the lens at which we will come at the crypto space. But we realize there's a lot of action going on and a lot of other projects and assets out there that don't really have a ton of derivatives action on them, but are still interesting to a lot of our listeners out there. So we try to, whenever possible, include them in the mix as well. And Syscoin, obviously, a good example of that. We still keep the core derivatives focused, but at the end of the day, a little bit of a sprinkling, a little bit of a cherry on top of some of the other fun. It's always fun for us here on the show. Keeps things fresh for you, the listeners out there as well. So glad you're enjoying it, Ray. If you like what you hear, do keep rating and reviewing on your platform of choice. It does help all the new folks continue to discover the show. All right, that music means we have to get out of here for this Just the Facts, ma'am edition of the Crypto Rundown. I want to thank our friends over there at Amber Data for sponsoring the show. Of course, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires on this data and quite a bit more. We are literally just scratching the surface on everything they have to offer over there. It is only a limited time we have here on the show, after all, listeners, but a lot more data you can find if you want a free trial. amberdata.io, the place to go to check that out. If you want to check out more great content, we have a lot more cooking on the network throughout the week. So if you just subscribe to the Crypto Rundown, what are you doing? You're missing out on a whole bunch more content over there, including for you pro folks tomorrow, great pro Q&A with Mr. Scott Nations, the curator of VolQ and author of many great options and derivatives and indeed financial history tomes out there. So that should be a fun one. Get your questions in now. It's usually crowded whenever he joins us on the Pro Q&A. And then on Wednesday, you get your great educational content. We're talking about Options Bootcamp coming at you again this week. Thursday, of course, This Week in Futures Options. In many ways, the sister show to the Crypto Rundown here, where we do touch on crypto in a little bit more detail, focusing on the listed version, obviously the listed futures and options over there at CME, which are growing in volume and interest all the time. And then, of course, the Option Block, a great show for all you retail options traders like to see what's going on out there from an options market perspective. Friday Volatility Views. So if you're intrigued by volatility, that's the show for you, as well as for all of our pro folks, Options Oddities, where we break down the week's worth of unusual activity, see what's interesting, see what we want to trade, what may interest you out there from a trading perspective. And then we're back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.